Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we're going to be ranking every single in-game in NBA 2K22 MyTEAM from worst to best. This is going to be part one of that video. Going to be ranking the first 16 in-games, or I guess the worst 16 in-games, and then in tomorrow's video, we'll have the best 17 in-games left over. There are 33 in-game cards that were released this year in MyTEAM, so we'll be ranking all of those in this video. But before we hop into it and start ranking, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 7,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload basically every single day, not quite every single day, with 2K22 coming to an end, but once 2K23 starts right back up, we'll be back to uploading every day, often multiple videos a day. So I'd really appreciate it if you haven't already, if you do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right in. Let's start off with the first player in today's video, which is going to be Magic Johnson. I think Magic is the worst in-game in the game. This specific Magic, there's obviously multiple versions of several of these cards, and we're going to be including each version of these players separately for those players who have two in-games. But Magic, I just don't think is that great of a card. 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan. He's not bad. Every in-game is a very, very good card. Obviously, they all have perfect stats and badges, AD Hall of Fame badges, hotspots from everywhere. They're all basically perfect in those areas. But the thing that I don't love about Magic, while I do like his release, base 3 Kobe upper on very quick, very, very good release. A lot of in-games have this exact release, even with Kobe upper. Quick dribble style is great, but the Steve Francis size up is not good. He's the only in-game, or at least one of the very few in-games that has the Steve Francis size up, which definitely hurts the card a bit. It's not a size up that I'm a big fan of compared to D-Rose or even Kyrie. And then the Curry escape as well is not that great. So he's not a very good shot creator, which kind of kills him as a PG, having a mediocre size up and a mediocre escape. And both of those things are really big issues for a PG, and issues that really every other card on this list don't have, especially the guards. And that's a big killer in my opinion for Magic. So for me, I think he's the worst in-game in MyTEAM. Now, the second worst in-game in MyTEAM, in my opinion, is Scotty Barnes. I know people love this card. A lot of people run him. My issues with this card, for one, he's only 6'7". He does have a great wingspan, but he's a bit undersized at the 3, especially compared to a lot of the 6'9", 6'10", 6'11" small forwards that people are running in their lineup at this point in the year. While he has perfect stats and badges, just like every other in-game, I'm really going to stop mentioning that. Set shot 25 with Kemba upper is a very solid release. He's got a nice catch and shoot release, nice off the dribble. Obviously, set shot 25 is a great release. Quick dribble style, D-Rose size up are great. The Curry escape is not great, and that is something that is going to hold a lot of these in-games back compared to the Trae Young escape, which is on some of these cards. And that is an issue, I think, combined with the fact that he's undersized at the 3. Those two issues are relatively significant in my personal opinion, and they hold him back a lot, and is why I think he's the second worst in-game in the game. Now, JR is number 3, 6'6" with a 6'10" wingspan, so he doesn't have elite size at the point guard position, but it's not terrible. Obviously, hotspots from everywhere, but release, I do like it a lot. Jump shot 3, Rudy Gay upper. I like the Rudy Gay upper a lot, but my biggest issue with this card is that, for one, he's a bit undersized at only 6'6" at the PG position. He's one of the smallest PGs in the game. Curry escape is not good. Like I said, I don't like the Curry escape very much compared to Trae, and those two things, him being a little undersized, he also doesn't have amazing defensive animations, and he's got that Curry escape. That's 3 flaws right there, and I think those 3 flaws are enough to put him at number 3. At number 4, the 4th worst in-game in the game, we're going with Dirk Nowitzki. He was the first in-game available and was an amazing card for his time, and honestly is still a very, very good card. He's got super solid size at power forward with a 7-foot wing, 7'1" height, but he doesn't have any elite wingspan. It's not bad though. What I will say about the card, he doesn't play incredible defense. I wouldn't say his defensive animations are off the chart amazing, but I do love his release. Set shot 25, Rudy upper is really, really good. Quick dribble style, Francis size up, Curry escape. Got the same SIGs as Magic Johnson. Those are definitely not what you like to see, having those mediocre 6. I will say the size up and escape are not quite as important for a power forward, which is why I have him over a few cards on this list, even though he has the same SIGs as Magic. I think it's less crucial considering he's a power forward, not a point guard like Magic is, but I still don't think he's an elite level card compared to most of the in-games on this list, which is why I still have him in that bottom 5. And then rounding out that bottom 5, we have James Harden, a guy who's undersized at 6'5". That's really his biggest flaw. Also has Curry base, doesn't have set shot 25 or base 3. His jumper is easier to contest in my opinion than literally any other in-game. I think he has the easiest to contest release in the game, or of the in-game specifically, not in the game. And that hurts him, even though he does have perfect SIGs and perfect animations. I still think he's a really good card, but for me, not really all that great compared to most of the other in-games. All right, coming in at number 6, the 6th worst in-game in the game is going to be Wilt Chamberlain. And while I think Wilt was a great card for his time, I locked in this Wilt personally, and I think he was awesome. At this point, he's just a tiny bit outclassed for one specific reason, which we'll get to in a second. That being said, he's got really good size, especially for a power forward, at 7'1" with a great player build, looks very, very tall. And additionally, an 8-foot wingspan helps him to cover a ton of ground, to play a ton of lanes, and just be an elite all-around defender. I really like this card a lot defensively. Offensively, he's good as well. He's got D-Rose size. Curry escape isn't amazing, like I've mentioned multiple times, but on a power forward or center, it's not as crucial because he's not going to be handling the ball as much. The release is really the biggest flaw with this card. It's not a bad release by any means, but for whatever reason, Luka base on non-Luka cards just does not perform that well in my team. I don't know what it is about Luka's upper on Luka's release, but it is so good, but not on this Wilt card without him having the Luka upper. So for me personally, I don't love this release, and really that's kind of a killer despite the fact that I love everything else the card does. And with how good all these in-game cards are, I just can't put him any higher on this list. At number 7, same thing. We're going with Luka Doncic in-game. Another guy who's an amazing card, and really honestly is even better on his regular invincible cards, especially on next gen. On current gen, not quite as much. I would take this Luka over the invincible Luka on current gen, but on next gen, invincible Luka is still one of, if not the best cards in the game because of how dominant and how cheesy his release is. That being said, 6'7" with 6'8" wingspan, he's a solid card, decent size at PG. Base 3 with Kobe upper on, very quick, definitely really good, but quick dribble style, D-Rose size up while amazing. The Curry escape isn't it on a point guard. That's a killer. You're going to see that on a lot of these next few cards on this list, is that Curry escape really being their worst flaw. He doesn't have elite size either and doesn't have amazing defensive animation. So for me, he's the worst of the PGs with Curry slide besides JR and Magic. So he goes in at number 7. At number 8, another point guard with the Curry slide. It's going to be MJ. Very similar situation to Luka as well. His other card, his invincible, in my opinion, is just as good or better than his in-games, and I do think it's better than this point guard MJ. And that's because even though he's got really good size, a great release, base 3 with Damian Lillard upper, really good, the Curry escape is a bit of a killer. He doesn't quite have the height of Luka, but I think his defensive animations are slightly better than Luka, which is why I just have him that tiny bit higher than Luka. But honestly, they're interchangeable, very similar cards. I just prefer this MJ's defensive animations a tiny bit more. That being said, I would prefer his invincible over this in-game entirely because I just don't like the Curry slide on a primary ball handler. And that again is MJ's issue. At the number 8 spot, or at least I think it's number 8, it might be number 9. It goes in-game Anthony Davis, an AD while 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. He struggles a little bit with size at the power forward position. It's not bad size, and especially early in the year, AD is always one of those elite big men, but at this point in the year when you can run guys who are 7'3", 7'4", 7'6" at the power forward position, AD is just a bit undersized, despite being an amazing card on paper, an elite release, such a 25 Rudy Gay upper, which I like a lot. Perfect 6. He has the Trey escape instead of Curry escape. I think this card is elite. He's just undersized, and that really kills him more than anything else, is the fact that compared to most of the other guys people are running at the power forward position at this point in the year, AD is just a tiny bit undersized, and that's really the biggest reason that I have him this low on the list. Coming in at the 10th worst in-game in the game is going to be in-game point guard Tracy McGrady. He's 6'8" with 7'2" wingspan, so he's got elite size, really good release. I like base 3, Kobe upper. It's a good release. A lot of in-games have it, but he's got great 6 outside of that Curry escape. But just like with Luka and MJ, I just don't like it when my primary ball handler has that Curry escape, and that's why I really don't use these in-games with the Curry escape very much. And T-Mac falls into that same category. Got a little bit of better size and better player build than guys like Luka and MJ, which is why he's higher than them on the list. But yeah, for me, not amazing in my opinion. Coming in at number 11 is going to be Magic Johnson, the other Magic, the center point guard Magic. This is definitely the better in-game Magic. He now has D-Rose size up instead of Francis size up, which is better. Honestly, really a big fan of the release, set shot 25 instead of base 3. Still Kobe upper, but very good. Still has that Curry escape though, and just like with all these other cards, that Curry escape on a point guard, on a primary ball handler, is just a little bit of a killer, and for me, it holds Magic back just like with all of them. I do like his size a lot though, which is why he's higher than a lot of them. Continuing the trend, we're going with in-game LeBron James. Yet again, another point guard, another guy with really good size, a great release, really good upper as well. Just has that release that I am not, or that SIG in the Curry escape that I am not a massive fan of. I will say his release, I love release 102 upper. I think it's one of the best uppers in the game, and it makes his release very hard to contest even compared to other base 3s, which I think is really good. And I think he's a great card, no doubt about that whatsoever. But again, it's still that killer with that Curry escape that has been a theme in this video and will continue to be for the rest of the video as well, as we go into yet another tall, athletic, really good point guard with that one flaw, the Curry escape. KD 6'9" with a 7'4" wingspan has elite size and an elite player build for a PG, which I really like a lot, especially with his wingspan. And yet again, really good release, jump shot 3, Kemba upper is really good, D-Rose size up, but that Curry escape, yet again, I keep repeating myself, but it's really the reason that all of these guys are as low on their list as they are, is that Curry escape, and it continues to be a theme for KD, with him coming in at number 13. At number 14, we got the Joker, Nikola Jokic, who's one of the cards that actually stands out as being different than most of the other in-games. He's 6'11" with a 7'3" wingspan at the point guard position, which is amazing, and his release is really, really smooth and relatively tough to contest. I think it's very, very solid for sure. It's not as elite, though, I would say, as most of the other releases on these cards, and I think that's the one thing that holds him back compared to most of the other in-games, despite still being a very good release. He does have perfect SIGs, which is very, very nice and definitely different from a lot of the cards that we've talked about so far in this video, but the release not being quite to that next level elite is why he's in this first video in part 1 and as low as number 14 on the list. At 15, we have Giannis, and Giannis, the PG one, is a very, very solid card, but not quite to the level of the small forward, power forward Giannis, who is a bit better, or small forward center, I think he is, who's a bit better at in-game. 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan, or 6'11" with a 7'4" wingspan, I should say. Elite size, elite length, an elite defender with really good defensive animations, great switchability. Really, it's that same thing. He's got the same releases a lot of these other in-game cards have. Perfect SIGs outside of the Curry escape, but that Curry escape, yet again, just holds cards back a tiny bit, but Giannis with his size goes higher than basically all of them, except for the one last player that I'm going to talk about with that Curry escape, who is a guard, and that's going to be point guard Kareem. And the reason point guard Kareem is this high, despite being very, very similar to all these other in-games with the Curry escape, is his 7'2" frame, 7'5" wingspan, an elite player build with the afro that makes him look even taller than 7'2". His switchability is just so versatile and so valuable on both ends of the court, and I think his mashing ability as well with his size at PG just makes him an absolute mismatch offensively as well. So despite him having the Curry escape, I do think he's the best of the point guards with the Curry escape, or I should say the second best, because there is one more that we'll talk about in tomorrow's video. But I do think Kareem is still an elite card, very, very good option, and he comes in right here in that middle as the 16th worst in-game in my team. So that is my ranking of the worst in-games in my team, part 1. Next video, we're going to be talking about those guys that are kind of on that other end of the spectrum, the other 17, who I think are toward that best end of the spectrum for these in-game cards. So hopefully you did enjoy the video, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.